Hey folks, it's Chris with the Human Project Podcast. If you haven't listened to the first episode of our series, Christianese Phrases, go back and listen to it. This is the first one that we explore, and it's the phrase of, I'll be praying for you. What do we actually mean when we say that? We're going to explore that. We're going to talk through this, talk through where it's helpful, where it's not helpful, and what to do about it. So take a listen. Let us know what you think. We'll see you after the episode. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Chris.
How's it going?
It's pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Marvelous.
Yeah. So in our last episode, we spent some time, we're just going to jump right in.
Yeah.
In our last episode, we spent some time talking about and this overview of Christianese phrases. I think as we were talking about this more after we recorded, you came up with a really helpful thing that I want to make sure we call out with all of these.
Yeah.
Is you don't want people to be overcautious or paranoid about every single word that they say.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness, I'm going to just eliminate my entire Christianese vocabulary. That's not what we're calling people to or asking people to. Calling people. We should do an episode on calling. That'd be a good one.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, getting neurotic about this or imagining that people are, laughing at you or whatever if you're saying these phrases that's not the intent of what we're after here. It is lighthearted, certainly. And really, though, the invitation is to consider carefully what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right. To just mean what we're saying, which I think is a very Jesus type of thing to do. And
let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Exactly.
It's another one to explore.
Another one we can go on. So I think that's a fair thing for us to challenge ourselves on and invite God to challenge us on. And if we mean what we say and we're saying phrases that are this, then fine. That's great. Let's just have intent with it.
Yeah. That's good. I think that's especially important for today's, what we're going to be talking about is I'll be praying for you,
right?
Or I'll be praying for that, or all the variations that are conceived. So prayer, biblical, not biblical.
let me do a quick study here. I'm going with biblical for 200, please, Alex.
Oh, I wish I had a Jeopardy like buzzer. Bip, bip, bip. That's if you don't have the answer. That's the sound, right?
Yes, that's if you run out of time.
Okay. Not important. Now I got the song stuck in my head.
You're welcome.
And all of you listening are going to have the song stuck in your head too after this.
Yeah, I did my job today.
But yeah, I think we see tons and tons of evidence of prayer throughout Scripture.
Yeah.
Like it's not debated. Like, yes, biblical, found in the Bible, good pattern, good thing to say to people under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
So let's explore what that means and how people intend that.
Right. So like interceding for other people, which is typically the context it comes up in, I'll be praying for you, right? So that would be essentially a promise of intercession on behalf of somebody else. That is something that Jesus clearly did for us. It's recorded.
Let's break down intercession.
Okay.
Is that
a Christianese word too or something?
I think that's more of a theological word.
Okay.
I know that's actually, it's not
both.
just theological. Obviously in this context, it's theological intercession. But you can talk about intervening on somebody's behalf or petitioning on somebody's behalf.
Yeah. So we're going to talk to God and ask him to do things to help somebody with something, to bless them, something in that realm. I mean, those are pretty typical intercession types of requests that we might have. And we see Jesus doing that exact thing. Like at the end of the Gospels, he's praying for the disciples that will follow. That's us. He's interceding for us at that moment. And he promises that he's doing that right now for us as well. So absolutely a pattern we want to have. And that intent behind that, if there's somebody who's in need that we're with, if I'm going to go intercede on their behalf with God, awesome. Yeah. Say it, do it. Let's go. Right?
This is where I love the difference between you and me and how we complement each other.
Yeah.
Is that's not at all what I was thinking. Like I wasn't even thinking about the prayer aspect. Okay. I was thinking about the promise aspect.
Okay.
Like I'll be praying for that is a commitment to take an action to do exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting. So there's two parts there. And I think this is the one that I find myself getting tripped up on the most is like by committing to that, I'm actually committing to doing that going forward.
Yes.
And do I mean that I'm going to commit to that doing forward each time?
Right.
I was talking to Victoria about this, my wife, earlier today. And I told her we were going to be walking through this podcast series. And she's like, oh, I've stopped telling people I'm going to pray for them because I forget. And I want to mean what I say. I'm like, oh, just another reason why I love you so much.
That's an integrity move right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I think that was a really good call out for me. It's like, I want to mean what I say. Now, that's the good side of it is when you have that commitment, you have that action, that follow through, that you're going to go intercede on that person's behalf. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful thing. Please, please, please do not stop telling people you will be praying for them. But mean what you say.
Yes.
Let's talk about the dark side of that.
Sure. I mean, clearly just the simple other side of the coin is you say it and then you don't do it.
Sure.
And that is, I mean, that's kind of the obvious other side of that. And that is not a good thing. That is just simply not a good thing. I've done it, right? It's like, I mean to pray for this person. It's not that I don't mean it in the moment, but if I don't have the mechanisms, if I don't have the intent, then why am I saying that? That's a unhelpful thing to be saying. And it's actually making a commitment to something that I'm not actually planning to follow through on.
Yeah.
That's not a good spot to be in, especially when we're saying, I'm going to go to God on your behalf. Maybe if I remember. Right? And you're like, well, maybe I should just not say it.
Yeah. I think the more honest version would be, maybe I'll be praying for you.
Right. Yeah.
But I think there's the forgetfulness side. I think there's also I think we mentioned this in the intro episode, I'm just trying to make myself comfortable. And I literally have no idea what else to say. Like, oh, I'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's a more helpful response in that? I think something that we would default to is listening.
Yeah.
Like our reflective listening, go back and listen to those episodes, talking about like, oh man, it sounds like that must be really difficult. The scenario you're going through or whatever it is. But actually like leaning in, trying to be with that person. Like I said in the intro episode, a lot of times we tend to call these bumper sticker because you're just like, oh yeah, I'll be praying for you. Like you want to just like hit it. And where do you see the bumper? When you're driving away.
Yeah.
Driving away. That's when you see the bumper sticker.
Off I go.
Yeah. All right. I'll be praying for you. See you later.
Right.
Yeah. And it has this, it just rings really hollow.
Yeah.
When you just throw something on and then go away. It doesn't show caring. It doesn't show connection. It doesn't show, I think, what God has called us to in obedience of being with somebody.
Yeah.
Now, we may not have time. We may not have the emotional capacity for it. We may not have the energy for it, whatever reason that is. But I think my ask is don't just say something that you're not going to do.
Right. I think being with somebody, it kind of follows through the intent of some of what we may mean when we say, I'll pray for you. I want God to be with you. Well, guess what? If God is in me, if Jesus has taken up residence inside of me and I'm with that person, and that's actually walking that out. Yeah. So let's just do that. Like right now, why am I going to say, I got to go. I'll pray God's with you. Turns out that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So let's just make that real, which would be my other recommendation is to say, if you're going to say, I'm going to pray for you, why not? Can I pray for you right now?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I remember the first time somebody did that to me, I was super weirded out by it. I'm like, this is not normal. But I still remember like that moment. I remember exactly where I was. I remember who it was. And I just remember like, I don't know why I haven't thought of this before. Yeah. And it's still something that I know is there, but I don't exercise it enough. And it is really powerful.
It is.
And sometimes people will say no.
Right.
But I think your goal is if you want to pray or intercede on that person's behalf, like that is a wonderful thing to do with them, in them, and then continue to do it.
Sure. Yeah. It's a tremendous pattern to have.
Yeah. Write it down on your prayer list and do it in your quiet time, which we're going to talk about later. Another quiet time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do think key to the negative side of this is the discomfort that we feel in the conversations when somebody's sharing something with us. You know, my mom is really sick and she probably has a few weeks to live. I don't know what to say to them. Right. Yeah. My husband just passed away. I don't, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
I have no words that I say are going to like make me look amazing and the other person feel better. Neither of which are actually God's main intent in that interaction, by the way. But that's usually the type of stuff that I'm thinking about, that I think most of us are thinking about, that lead us to say things like, oh man, wow, I'll be praying for you. Off we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good call out of the root of a lot of these Christianese phrases is not the phrase themselves. It's what is it trying to paste over or help us with? What's the intent it's trying to meet? Yeah. And a lot of times those things are very much a comfort thing.
Right.
Like, God's got this. I'll be praying for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those things are not meeting the intent. So goes back to being with, relationship, all the other things that we love to talk about, being in community, being vulnerable. We'll talk about that in a future episode. Not in the Christianese phrases, but overall. So yeah, awesome. Good. So I'll be praying for you. Hold it with the intent and the weight of what it actually means.
Right.
Like you get to talk to God. Oh, how cool is that?
Right.
It's these things that like we know mentally, but if we ever stop to think about it, we would just be beyond words and amazement.
Right.
So hold it with the weight is intended.
Yes.
That's the ask.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for exploring that, buddy.
Yeah. I'll be praying for you.
Likewise. And I mean it.
I do too.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in today. Our team is made up of myself, Chris Conlin, and Mark Wavle, and our lead editor is Derek Donley. We're a crowd-funded nonprofit. Our free resources exist because of your generous support. To learn more about us or to check out classes that we talk about here, visit us at www.humanproject.us. Thanks for joining us on our mission to bring 1 million lives closer to the fullness of God's design.